Ever since MGs were added to the NFA in the 1980s, Americans have been searching for a way to unlock that rapid-fire potential out of their ARs. In the mid-2000s, you had companies coming out with bump stocks, which were honestly not that great, more of a gimmick. And then we had binary triggers, which were, again, mainly a gimmick, but did offer something pretty neat. And those were basically all your options. That was until a few years ago when rare breed triggers came out with the forced reset trigger. The FRT basically acted as a legal loophole to America's full auto or machine gun law. The law considers any firearm that can fire multiple rounds with one trigger pull a machine gun. The forced reset trigger, while providing the same rate of fire as a machine gun, does not do this. Because I don't have any ARs within arm's reach right now, I will demonstrate how the device works on this right here. The basic mechanics of an FRT are as follows. When you pull the trigger, the bolt is obviously going to reciprocate backwards, ejecting the spent casing, but it also activates an arm that is attached to the trigger, which forces your trigger finger forward, thus resetting the gun. So as long as you're applying consistent rearward pressure, the gun will go off when the bolt returns home. Now obviously the bureaucrats really didn't like this, and the ATF went and sued rare breed triggers. Rare breed triggers actually came out on top, and while there was some weird legalese going on with the settlement, they're now being sold, and you can buy one right now and have it shipped straight to your door. A little while after Rare Breed came out with their FRT, there were other companies that started making clones of their cassette-style triggers, and even more companies making an item called the Super Safety. While the design is different, they basically execute the same function. And there are pros and cons to both devices. The FRTs are very easy to install. They're basically drop-in, although they are cassette-style triggers, which are inherently less reliable. They're also very expensive, going for about 500 units of currency. The Super Safety, on the other hand, goes for about 100 units, but they're not as easy to install, and they do require modification of your trigger and sometimes your receivers. The Super Safety is also a bit less ergonomic, being a push-button safety instead of the standard AR selector switch. But what I have in my AR is the Atrius Super Selector, or Forced Reset Selector. This device basically gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you the ergonomics of an FRT while being similar to the price of a Super Safety, and also allows you to use your mil-spec triggers. In fact, unlike most Super Safeties, this doesn't require you to modify your trigger bar. So this device seems like it would be a slam dunk, a drop-in. You just throw it in your gun and you're off to the races. Not exactly. If you hop on any of your favorite search engines or go to Reddit, you're going to see a lot of people complaining about the unreliability of Super Safeties or FRTs, not being able to get them to work or parts breaking whenever they're firing with them. Many shooters are under the false impression that these devices are drop-in, and that's to no fault of their own. If you go to the websites of the people selling these devices, oftentimes in the descriptions they will claim that they're drop-in, but they're not. Sometimes they can be, depending on your receiver, trigger, buffer combo, but for most, I'm seeing that you have to do a bit of modifications to get these to run properly. So what did I have to do to get my 11.5 BCM rifle up and running consistently without any issues? Well, immediately I had to modify the lower receiver. Even though this is a mil-spec, full auto pocket lower, I still had to take a bit of material out right around the safety selector channel. There are many shooters using Bravo company lowers that have no problem with binding or fitment, but sometimes tolerances stack and you have to take away a little bit of material. Luckily, this was the only thing I had to file away in my receivers. There are many shooters that have to file away some material in their upper receiver, so the arm on the safety itself doesn't bind or break off, but I didn't have to do it in my case, and I'm pretty happy about that. So once I had the safety properly installed, I grabbed some ammunition and went off to the range. I had an H2 buffer and a Springco blue spring installed, and took some shots, only to be disappointed.
First shot. We're just gonna send it.
I was getting 2 or 3 round bursts and then a dead trigger with an empty chamber. This meant one of two things was happening. Either A, the gun was cycling so fast that it went right past the magazine and didn't pick up any ammunition, or, more likely, B, the gun was short stroking. So, I went home, grabbed the H1 buffer, and went out the next day to test it out again. I had an H1 buffer and a standard carbine spring installed, and it ran perfectly.
She's getting hot. Look at that.
There were a couple instances where the bolt didn't lock on an empty magazine, but other than that, it ran like a champ. So, after I shot my .223 ammunition, I switched over to some 5.56 NATO, just some M855. And wow, it immediately made a world of difference. The gun went from controllable and fairly soft shooting to absolutely kicking the crap out of me. I basically realized that if I'm going to be shooting softer .223 ammo like Wolf or PMC Bronze, I'm going to switch to the H1 buffer with a carbine spring. But if I'm shooting 5.56 NATO ammo or any spicier load, I'm going to have to switch over to the H2 with the Springco Blue Spring. Ever since my initial testing of the device, I've had no problems at all. As long as I'm running the proper spring and buffer combo with the ammunition, then I'm good to go. That said, I've only put about 500 rounds through this trigger so far, and that is not that much. So I'm going to put a few more thousand through the trigger and get back to you guys at a later date. The main reason I wanted to make this video is because I find some of the marketing around FRTs or super safeties to be a bit misleading. You may have to do some modifications to get yours to run, but that said, it's not that bad, and I believe in your guys' abilities, so go do it. And do your damn dry fire.